What if the Nostromo crew had stumbled upon something even more horrifying than just the classic Xenomorph? Before Damon Lindelof reshaped Prometheus, original writer Jon Spaihts had already worked on several drafts with Ridley Scott, each centered on LV-426, not LV-223, scripts that focused on the very same derelict ship that Ripley and her crew encountered. And in those early versions, he and Scott toyed with an intriguing idea: 8 different types of Xenomorphs. Spaihts revealed in an interview with Empire magazine that he wrote 5 different drafts of the script, working with Ridley very closely over about 9 months. And even as we were working, we were constantly toying with the closeness of the monsters in the film to the original Xenomorph. We imagined that there might be 8 different variations on the Xenomorphs, 8 different kinds of alien eggs that you might stumble across, and 8 kinds of slightly different Xenomorph creatures that could hatch from them. It's an insane concept, and one that could have changed the direction of the prequels. In Spaihts' draft, David exposes Watts, or Shaw in the later versions, to a traditional facehugger inside the derelict's egg chamber, where he coldly informs her, the ship has 7 other cargo bays like this one. The eggs in each bay are slightly different. They've been weaponized, perfect predators, designed to kill human beings. That's what the engineers were bringing to Earth. This was a death ship. The engineers did their job too well. So well that their own creation wiped them out before they could unleash it on Earth. Spaihts' drafts describe an alien incubator in the catacombs beneath the engineer pyramid, and inside, grotesque molluscoid organisms, boneless squid-like creatures, drip from honeycomb cells in the ceiling. One of these creatures infects Holloway, leading to the birth of a terrifying new alien, a translucent white goblin-like creature with a jaw structure similar to a goblin shark, an early take on what would lead to the Deacon. However, this alien didn't emerge from an ovomorph, and David specifically mentioned eggs in each bay. Unlike Covenant, where David's involvement in the Xenomorph's evolution is implied, Spaihts' original story kept the engineers as their creators. The derelict was their vessel, piloted by the space jockey, who was an engineer who fell victim to his own cargo. The ship was on its way to destroy Earth, only for an Ultramorph, a massive engineer-hosted Xenomorph, to burst from the pilot and crash it back onto LV-426, where it would later be found by the Nostromo crew. So if we take David's comment about slightly different eggs at face value, it's most likely that the other sections of the derelict would have housed evolutionary stages and steps that fit in between the aliens from their incubators and up to the modern Xenomorph. But if they really are just slightly different, the others could be like the Romulus strain of Xenos that were found on the Renaissance space station, Xenomorphs with a slightly different look, and perhaps an unseen stage like the Cocoon. And then there's David's alien, also called the Praetomorph, his twisted attempt at perfecting the species. Its design closely mirrors the classic Xenomorph, but what if something similar already existed in the derelict's cargo? Paying homage to the Masters, we could see variants like a translucent Xenomorph, aliens with see-through skin and flesh, the original intention of Ridley Scott and H.R. Giger, and a reference to the biomechanoids from Giger's art book, The Necronomicon. Looking at Dark Horse, there are the red Xenomorphs from Aliens Genocide, who had a queen mother of a slightly different design, while the adults in other stages were only changed by color and/or smell to separate them from the standard aliens. Spaihts' vision suggested that the engineers were the true architects of both the Xenomorph and the Neomorph, creating them both from the black pathogen. If that's the case, could there be a hybrid variant, one with the pale coloration and distinct head shape of a Neomorph, yet with the armored exoskeleton and ovomorph stage of the Xenomorph? Looking to the expanded universe, one could imagine variants like the ones seen in the Kenner toy line, or in the various comic books and video games. Perhaps there are sections of Praetorian ovomorphs, and others that are specialized in creating Xenos like the Spitters and the Boilers, or maybe even the Runners or the Crushers, regardless of the stance of the host. The idea of 8 different Xenomorph variations is a haunting one. The franchise has explored mutations, hybrids, and engineer-created horrors, but I'd jump at the story that included the possibility that the derelict held an entire arsenal of biological nightmares. What do you think was really inside of those eggs? Were they all just slightly different Xenomorphs? Or could some of them have been even worse? Thanks for watching, take care, and I hope to see you next time.